It's summertime, and this is when our thoughts turn to our outdoor irrigation system. It's getting hotter, we're not getting as much rain in the summer, and so we think our grass needs maybe a little supplemental irrigation. But what we don't realize is how quickly our water use and our water bill can add up. Because a sprinkler system, one head in a sprinkler system can use anywhere from 2 gallons a minute all the way up to 7 or 8 gallons a minute every time they run. You got to multiply that by the number of sprinkler heads in your system and how many zones you have. All of a sudden you're talking about a lot of water and maybe a water bill surprise. But there's some simple things we want people to do to make sure that their grass is getting the right amount of water, but they're not overwatering with their sprinkler system. So the first thing is get to know your sprinkler system, right? This is actually a sprinkler body, and it actually is comprised of several parts. You might think your sprinkler is just this, the little part you see popped up when it sprinkles. But actually there's an entire mechanism inside, a riser that pressure pushes up, and most importantly, a nozzle. These are the little guys that often suffer when we water our lawn and ride our lawn mowers right over them. And what can happen is you can chip the side, and all of a sudden your spray can fan out in an awkward pattern or can start misting off the top. Or sometimes, if our blade is a little bit too low, we can just cut the nozzle clean off. That's when you'll notice when you run your system, water just pouring out like a stream. They're not meant to operate like that. Probably means you need to make a simple repair. Just replace the nozzle and you'll have a more efficient system. So once you know what comprises an irrigation system, you need to know how to maintain it. So one of the things you'll want to do is look at your irrigation controller. The easiest way to know that you're irrigating smart is to invest in an EPA WaterSense labeled controller. That takes real-time weather data and uses it to actually control your irrigation. It's smart enough to know not to water when it's raining out. It knows if your lawn's reached enough water to survive, and it'll just interrupt irrigation. But if you don't have that, my second favorite way is find your on and off button on your irrigation controller and manually decide when you need to water. Check your grass. Do the simple step test. Step on the grass. If it springs back, your grass is fine. It doesn't need water. If your footprint remains for more than 15 seconds, your grass is a little stressed and could probably use some water. So what about these tiny little strips of grass? No matter how much you water it, we can't grow pavement. But it's really tricky to water those little strips of grass. Here's what I recommend. Try to get a side strip head. It's going to throw water just directly straight in a very small pattern of about 15 to 20 degree angle. So you're going to minimize overspray. If you're putting in a new system, invest in micro sprays or bubblers or even a simple drip system. The other thing we do, sometimes we've put in a sprinkler system and then we've made changes to our yard. Oops, all of a sudden we've created a blocked sprinkler head. So maybe we have a pop-up spray that can't pop up under our bush anymore. It's time to look at that. It might be that the bush is already established and you could cap off that sprinkler head completely. If not, you could replace it with a micro irrigation, or you could simply use a soaker hose or a drip installation under those plants. These are simple things you can do. The number one thing you can do is look at your system. If it turns on when you're not awake, you need to at least turn it on once a season and watch it run. How else will you know if you have misdirected heads? How else will you know if you have broken heads? How else will you know how much water and money is running down the drain? If you'd like more information on conservation and irrigation systems, you can always call the Water Efficiency Office at 770-419-6244, or you can visit us at cobbwater.org.